right, so in my session, we are going to make a movie. So this, my friends, is the personal branding canvas. So these are the elements that you would have heard tonight. So story, which is very clearly what Preston shared with you. Clarity, which is what Kerry brought. Key message, which Andrew shared with Making a Fitter Planet. And then expertise, which we'll get to. Expression assets, lead magnets, community, and the refresh. So you don't have to bother taking too many notes about this because we're going to just roll through it and you'll get an ebook. And tonight, my session is really focused on making a movie, making a story. So tonight, it's Write Your Future. So for a lot of us, when it comes to personal branding, it's all about either we want to create influence in the world, we want to do good things for people, and then on the business side of things, which I'm very, very happy to say two will go hand in hand, is revenue. So how can we monetize what we feel in our heart and earn with our hands? Do you like it? I call it reputation revenue. So how do we get there? So how do we exactly start and plot a course to our reputation revenue? And the best place to start is at the beginning. So where do you start? When you start with your story, okay? So has anyone ever been to a dining room table and there's just someone who's just said to you this really, really long story and it went nowhere and you're just wondering what is happening here? And then you're like, cool story, bro, at the end. Like my mum, who's here, she's amazing. She will often tell a joke starting with the punchline. So then it's like this slow motion car crash when sometimes mum tells a joke. So it's very pivotal that you understand your story structure because this, my friends, is where the money is made. If you can extract out of yourself your story, your personal DNA, and then get your fingerprints and put them on your personal brand, you will later on reap the rewards from that. So let's make a movie together. So first up, you're going to need some encouraging people. So people who are going to say, yeah, nice story, bro, or that's a nice story, honey, which is really her way of saying I'm not interested because I'm just really old. So this is one of the most amazing things that I've read. It's by Annette Simmons, and it's this. The telling of stories is a bonding ritual that breaks down the illusions of separateness. Remember we were talking before about individualism? So it's breaking down the illusions of separateness and activates a very deep sense of our collective interdependence. So I want you to have a very strong personal brand, but how about we hitch our wagon to someone else's personal brand? Or you hitch it to another wagon, which could be your business brand. For example, it could be, say, a company that you own, but you realize that in and your own self, you can be a personal brand. So it's about creating that interdependence. So Star Wars. Is anyone a Star Wars fan here? Yay! I think Star Wars is odd because they can't figure themselves out. They have to release things in the wrong order. And whenever I go to a movie to see them, I often have to ask people, are the white-suited ones the good ones or the black ones? So this is how much Australia has spent in 1 year. So $45 million. That's a lot of money. So $45 million, that's in Australia alone. So you take Thor Ragnarok, and this movie in Australia alone made over 26 million. And this, my friends, is a way of saying we crave stories and we crave story time. So Netflix, Australia is so set on watching Netflix that 1 in every 3 people in this room has a Netflix account. That's just how much that's over 7 million people. And YouTube is the same. So check this figure out, 15 million people in Australia visit YouTube. These are Australians only, but they're unique visitors every month. Not one of those is a repeat customer. So that's a pretty amazing thing, right? So Lion King, every generation it seems to find its way towards Lion King. So in millennials, for example, over 81% rated it as their number 1 favourite film. So would you agree that they love it, not because of the CGI? Because that was bad, right? Compared to today's standards. Do you think it was because of the sophisticated special effects? There are none. It's all animated. So it's our desire and our inward ability to know that a story is what we need. So at this juncture, I want to say that your personal brand starts with knowing what other people need from you. So on your phones, on your notepads, I want you to just put in there the first thing, which is, what is the problem? What is the need that other people have? So there's no point buying a Band-Aid and giving to someone if they don't have a cut, right? Actually, that's not true. Samuel's kids do that all the time. So putting that aside, you don't give somebody something that they don't need, but why do we keep doing it? With our personal branding, we're often being someone to somebody when they just need somebody else. If I were to set up a blog on fitness, it'd be pretty laughable, to say the least. I like how none of you laugh because you're too gracious. Yeah. See, Andy would buy it because you would buy anything I would sell. So if Andy did a fitness blog, it actually means something because it's what people want from him. People don't want that from me. What's the problem that only you can solve? Question mark that one. This is not me as a child, don't worry. So there's 3 questions here that I want yourself to ask. Where can I start in my business now? So if you are somebody who already has a business, fantastic, and I applaud you because that's pretty much having a business is like it's like self-harm almost. So the next one is, what is my purpose? I won't elaborate on that. Preston has done that more than adequately. And then the last big question is, who do you want to be, but not when you grow up? So this question is where personal branding begins. So I always found it so odd that people would say to you, what do you want to be when you grow up? I'm like, you mean I have to wait? Like, what is that about? I just feel like a kid, but with a kid with bigger bills. I look at my mortgage and think, like, did somebody accidentally approve my loan when I built my house? Because I'm just a kid. I'm just wearing a jacket to try and fool people, right? So who do you want to be? So I love media. I love media, so much so that when my first day of school came around in Grafton, over 18,000 people saw it on the front page of the newspaper. So that's how much I love it. I don't love the attention, I just love how the media works. So this is my sister who, the genesis of this photo is actually that nobody knew, but Naomi, my little sister who was 3, was the one who taught me how to do my shoelaces. I had actually no idea how to tie my laces. So in the front of the newspaper, the headline was, Nathan learns a new trick. And it's all of it was an article about everyone starting kindergarten. So you fast forward through life and you take baggage with you and you realise that somehow the personal story that you had is not going to service you anymore. So maybe for some of us, we've been in this little childhood blur of like, yeah, that's what I wanted to do and that's who I felt that I was at the time, but things have changed. So you take what you know and you transform it into something that you want. So after school, I knew that I wanted to do something creative. So I worked for somebody else, then we went to America with a band for a couple of months, came back and I started a business with a bright green laptop and my bedroom desk. And so I guess what I want to ask you is, where is your journey taking you next? So what are you trying to leave out of your story because you want to create something new? So maybe in your business you want to create a new product line that is something that's a bit daring, that's a bit new, or maybe it's a new service like a home delivery for something that is typically not home delivered. So think about where you're going to take people. So this is Disney. I was there a couple of months ago. It's the birthplace of stories, as you'll agree. So this is how personal branding can feel. Personal branding can feel like this big, vague, messy vortex in which everything gets sucked in and we have no idea what's going on. But actually, it should feel like this. Everybody exhale. Because to me, when you write a story that's accurate and true, you are asking yourself, as I said earlier, to step forward, not to stand out. There's enough people standing out, and they're the ones who feel like that. But the ones who are stepping forward are the ones who feel like that. So how do we create a story? So how do we kind of think about the themes we want to include? Well, I would say that if you are a business person, firstly, you are providing a service. If you're a corporate, you are really servicing your business community or the community at large. So whether it's real estate or plumbing or concreting or you're a teacher, what is the theme of your life? The reason why it's important to look at themes is because the configuration may change, but the theme will never change. So it's like anyone who is familiar with good stories, it can be a great book, but then the configuration gets changed into a movie. It's still the same story, just different configuration. So think, as a kid, what were your themes? What are the clues to give you a bit of an idea of what are the themes that might be in work in your life? Because once you start to unearth those themes, you can start to make sense about what's next. For myself, that was all about kind of being creative and, kind of like, being storytelling and having adventures in a creative sense. Like, not that adventurous, but, maybe I come close. We looked after a small dog once. That's basically it. So, in terms of what kind of life you want, what genre would you pick? So say, for example, I often sometimes get envious of the life that some people have. But then I reflect on it and I'm like, they've got they've got like this action drama life that must take so much more energy than I've got. So maybe I'm just more of just like a rom-com or a documentary kind of life. So think about, what kind of life do you want? The main reason being is that if you set your personal brand up to be like a massive, massive speaker that travels the world, or you set up your brand to be an incredible entrepreneur who builds businesses, you've set your benchmark there. And so you're going to have to try to work out how not to feel the pressure to live up to that genre that you've set for yourself. Okay, so here's one of the most important things in figuring out your personal brand, and that is your script. What have you got to say? If we could put you on radio for just a few minutes, we've got a radio man here. Wave to the nice people for us, thank you. So if I gave you a few seconds on radio, and then after that the radio station was going to be shut down, and you had that last few seconds, what would you say? What is so burning in your core that you just must get it out? Because I want to say that that's probably a good place to start, because it's probably a theme that you've been dragging with you since childhood. So you're the director. You get to choose. There's nobody forcing you and pushing you and pulling you into the direction of where you want your personal brand to go. So have a think now, like we've talked, well, I can talk about a vocabulary of overcoming, but what I want to do is say that in the story, you can be the character as well as the director. It's a unique proposition to be in. So have a think about your key message, because everything will be hinged on how you express that key idea. What do you want to be known for? I asked you before, when you leave the room, what do other people say about you? Do they say things like, he's incredibly helpful at, helping me choose these kind of products, or he was really great at understanding or listening, or she was an incredible counselor or a peacemaker? What is it that you want to be known for when you're not in the room? Because those are the things that are going to influence your script. So maybe if you've got a few seconds now, just write some of the kind of more emotive and / value-driven things that you want to be known for. Because when you're in a career, say you're looking to rise up through the ranks in your corporate that you're through, your personal brand will be very evident when you apply for that promotion. So over 75% of human relations departments, human resources departments, they have to now check your online presence. So they now will go through all of the different kind of language you use. They'll look at very common themes that you talk about online, and they will also talk to your colleagues. But they're getting a sense of your digital and your offline persona. So what is influencing your script? Do you feel so insecure that you need to push other people down so you can trample your way to the top? If that's your case, fix it. But if that's the case, you're going to see that in the words you choose on your Twitter posts. People are going to see that in the way that you treat people when you're sharing the same room as them. So these are the three ways that we can find and get started with our themes. And that is, find a head theme, find a heart theme, and find a hand theme. So these are the biggest things that in my life have been the most helpful. So head, what is the theme of your head? That's about knowledge, intellect, your ideas, your intellectual capital. Because we're living in an environment now where intellectual capital is going to be the most highly sought after prize. So we're not in an employment shortage, but we're in a skills shortage. meaning we've got the jobs, but we just don't have the people to fit the right kind of skills. So in those environments and those times, it's the people who have these three things figured out. So then you move to the heart. So what are your heart themes? It's the how you deliver on your head themes. So whether that's, very kind and patient and very measured in the way you do it, whether it's like, full on, fast-paced and bright. And then it comes to your hands is what is the actual practice and your profession and your professional expertise that you're bringing to the world? What is a theme of your hands? So for me, that might be design, or it might be kind of the idea of like helping people to understand people's ideas. Those are my themes. When it comes to characters of your story, I want you to write down, there's kind of, maybe if you have time, you can just put a line down the page. It's like the characters who are in the story and the audience, because the audience is the unseen character. So in your personal brand, you are going to bring people along the journey with you, right? So when you set up your business, do you do everything on your own, or do you go and get a consultant? Do you go and see an accountant? Or, do you just do everything online on your own and just hope it works? Chances are the answer is no. We go and seek out others. So ask yourself, who are the characters in my personal branding story? Who are the people who are featured as main roles, or maybe background figures as supporters? Because it's all about knowing your character, knowing the problems of your character, knowing what happens, when they shop online. If you're an online company, for example, what does your character look for when they're searching on Google? Or what kind of house do they live in? How much do they earn? What are their deepest and darkest problems? And I'll share a tool with you later on where you can go and find out. It's a bit of a reverse Google search. So who are the roles? So this is a shot. This is clearly not me, but you have here an opportunity to analyze a photo. So you have like a main character here and here. You have a moderate character there who's kind of connected, and then we've got all of these other bystanders in the background. So have a think, who is driving my story from a character perspective? Who am I helping and who's coming with me? And as part of that, we need to work out how we are dealing with what is called Dunbar's number. Has anyone heard of Dunbar's number? Yeah. So Dunbar's number, basically, it's a body of research which says that we can really only meaningfully engage and develop 150 friendships at any one time. So this is particularly important for personal brand enterprises like yours and mine. So we need to figure out who those 150 people kind of are going to be or could be, and then kind of encourage them by engaging and get them to be our advocates. So these are my kind of champions. These are some friends, and there's a few odd ones there, which is what I like, and there's a few less odd ones, and then you have your family as well. And this is how it looks. So Dunbar's research says from the middle is your kin, your super family, then your clan, and then your tribe. So when you are developing your personal brand, have an understanding who you're talking to. So which characters am I talking to now? When I'm writing the script, so say for an online post or for a new business product that you want to do, who is it for? Is it, for example, is it someone in my family who is immediate need? Or is it someone maybe on the outer edge who I kind of know a bit about but need to do more research on? Find out from your own networks who is going to be your brand champions and who's really going to help advocate your message. And these are my people. These are my family. Lovely. I love this photo. I love here how my nephew always looks disgusted with us. You know those opt-out forms on your emails? He's looking for the opt-out form all the time. And there's a mother licking his head as you do. Okay, so who is influencing who? Who can you include? This is the biggest thing, is your personal brand. If you think you can build it on your own steam, you are kidding yourself. When you start your personal brand, as I said, make it strong. There's too many people saying, I'm so unique in this regard, there's nobody like me, but like we've said before, it's not true. So the idea is to bring people into your world, and as Kerry very eloquently said, with every person you meet, your network should expand. So this is 10,000 feet over the ocean in Antarctica. So I went there as part of a kind of like a dream that I always had, and just to try new things. And so with your personal brand, I dare you, just do something. This is actually flying over. This is part of the Antarctic regions that Australia has an ownership over. It's pretty amazing. It's so clear, you can see for 100 kilometres with the naked eye. It's quite incredible. So where will it take you? What are the people going to do to help you get there? All right, so now we come to the camera. So this is a really interesting thing because you know how you see people do selfies, right? Do they do selfies like this? Or do they do them like this? So they do them like that because your chin is nicely protruded and it creates a beautiful shape. And then you stick your neck out. This is some free tips for you. I'm not even charging you for this. So if you stick your neck out just a little bit and then up, bam, it's a good selfie. You never see them like this. And that's because they're choosing to focus on the right things. Okay? So when you have your gear and you have all your camera stuff, people are going to figure out what kind of directors are doing what kind of movies by what kind of camera angles they choose. So when it comes to your material that you want to put out, think about the angle you take. So let's just say, for example, you don't have a business and you work in a company and you are writing stuff for their marketing department, or it could be even writing reports for the sales department. How can you change the angle on that? How can you make what you do more interesting and a lot more kind of attractive to people? Choose a different angle, then commit to it. So if you're in real estate or you're a bricklayer, don't just talk about houses, talk about a different angle on houses. Just move the camera a bit. We've already got enough people saying things the same way, so do we need more? Possibly not. So think about what's in the frame and then analyse why it's there. So when you do that, you really starve the things that are not going to service your personal brand. We want to feed what's important. We want to feed our focus. So I've had some opportunities with the personal brand that I've built to interview all sorts of amazing people from Australia, Dubai, America, Singapore, all sorts of crazy cool places. But there's been some people who have wanted to interview who don't align with what I'm about. And my brand is all about live to accomplish and simple ways to create significant outcomes. So there's the opportunities that are going to come up which are just not relevant. And when you have enough kind of boldness to say no to things, that's when you know that you're choosing to focus on what's right for you. So every opportunity is going to be very lucrative and attractive, but how does it serve your story? If it's not serving your story, then chances are you don't need to include it. So you need to focus on one course until success. That's it. That's as hard as it gets. So, location. Where will your story take you? This shot is about 2 or 3 kilometres underground in a mine. And it's quite amazing at where your story will take you if you just say yes to the right things. So have a think now. In your business, where do you think you'll end up? And wherever you think you'll end up, multiply it by 3. Because usually we don't dream big enough. So I could never dream of, receiving analytics on my computer to say that somebody in Bulgaria is listening to my podcast. I don't understand that. But really, it's kind of like a place that I never expected to be. This is Barcelona. This is Gaudi's artwork, who you might be familiar with. And so it's quite amazing how location will change you. So when you're trying to figure out your story about your personal brand, go somewhere else. So my dad has what's called Climb a Tree Day, where he kind of goes somewhere out of context from the everyday and goes to change his visual kind of situation so that he can untether and think about what's next. So for me, this moment in Spain with my sister was such a creative renewal. And I thought, I'm so glad I came because the location can change you. So think about, what is your location doing? This is my brother and I in New York City. Years ago, this was shot on a film camera. Gives you a bit of an idea how young I am. So wherever your business takes you, leave a trail of breadcrumbs to those who are in your community. So when I say change your location and think about where your brand could take you, your business might want to open up an office in, say, Melbourne or, Parks, Forbes, whatever it is. Make sure that you're leaving a common sense trail of breadcrumbs between each of your connections. Because I've worked with plenty of franchises who have this silo mentality that this is a location, tick, we've done it. But actually, it's about the breadcrumbs you leave so that you can leave people connected, so that their location can change them because of the people they meet at different locations. All right, so props. So now we talked about things that we can use as examples to symbolize where we want to be, how we want to be perceived. So in Aladdin, the motive of the genie here in his little lamp there is the ultimate possibilities, right? So what is a visual symbol that you can include in your personal brand to communicate who you are? If you come up with a lamp, I'll know you've stolen it from this. Is it a round logo with KP in it? Is that going to help people realise quickly who you are? Or is it a symbol of some dumbbells and they realise and understand who you are? What prop are you going to use to quickly identify yourself to others? Because it gives you power and it gives you meaning. When people see that genie lamp, they know what that means, right? So it gives you context and power. And maybe also be aware that your props can let you down. So change them. Change them over if you need to. Whether it's a crutch or a catapult, whatever it is, make sure it's serving the story. With your props, are you collecting them? Or are you carrying them? Or are you throwing them away? So have a think now. If you're already in a business and you want to set up yourself as a personal brand, are you carrying things from your old brand that you shouldn't be carrying? So is there things of, say, you're eventually going to leave your business and sell it and then become an author on a particular subject matter? There's things that are kind of like legacy hangovers that you can be getting rid of. And then collecting, what are the new things you can be doing and what can you get rid of? Because there's just too much of some stuff that we just hold around, too many tools that are out of date. Okay, and this last one is sound. And that is, what are the voices that are shaping your personal brand? So have a think in some times, like what are the voices that are going to inspire you? So this shot here, the shoelace instructor and her older brother, I wanted to be a rock star, right? Because I'm a creative guy. So we did. So this is my brother and my band, and our band that we shut down because I had a lot of surgery. It just doesn't work. So, whatever that idea is in that voices in your mind is something that you'll follow. So make sure that when your personal brand gets up and running, that when you start to show your ideas, this is really key, only show your ideas and your hand to people who get it. Because your personal brands are different to your business brand. If you show your business brand, it's less personal, you're slightly distanced from it, and it's not very personal if they say something bad about it. But your personal brand's different. So when you listen to the voices, they set the tone for whatever you do next. Have a think, are you tuned into the voice of the crowd or the voice of the one in the crowd? So when I first started my podcast, I was incredibly nervous because I'm a perfectionist, it's something I had to get rid of, and also I hadn't spoken publicly for a long time. And so when people started to tell me, it was great, I felt energized and confident. And then I got a message online from someone to say that this is the most arrogant thing I've heard. And so what I did is I moved from listening to the voice of the crowd to the one voice in the crowd. And it did me in. I stopped producing for a long time. And so I realized that I was not listening to the correct things and I was giving more power and validity to voices that really wasn't warranted. Listen to your coaches, listen to your mentors. I can't think of anything sport analogy-wise because I resigned from my team when I was under sixes in soccer. That's how talented I am. So when it comes to your brand setup, go and find every book on that subject. So if you're wanting to class yourself as an amazing photographer in the marketplace, go and find every book available. And then if you want to kind of think about maybe an idol that you have or something like that, go and read every bio you can and really devour everything. All right, so audience. You are unique and there is a demand for what you offer. A lot of the times when we move from being a business owner or to being just a person who's on staff but knows they have more to offer, often we can be so insecure that we don't want to have that conversation. But can I just encourage you to say that there is a demand for what you have to serve up. And you don't know what it is until you start doing something. And so I kind of thought that perhaps maybe nobody was interested in what I had to say. I'm probably quite right. There are plenty of people who are not interested at all in what I have to say, and I'm cool with that. So you get the rewards along the way once you remember your purpose and remember what you offer is of service to others. So who is on your heart to help? Again, we come back to that central problem, and that central theme is what is the character's problems or needs that I can service with my personal brand? So one of the things that you can do is with the emotional themes is from day one, set up a charity affiliation. So if you feel that you want to help, say, for example, my thing is blindness, because everything I do for work is visual, is branding, so I should do also likewise and do something about sight. So as part of your themes, make sure you do something that relates to your industry, because then you'll be psyched about it. Cool, so the empty chairs are there waiting for you. Have a think about who is sitting in those. People are looking to you, and so make sure that you create milestone moments because it's your turn. Thank you very much.